You know, the idea that you can be allergic to an animal that you morph into, and that might actually be a problem, would make me pretty useless as an animorph, as I am allergic to many things that they use for their battle morphs. I can't think off the top of my head what I could use as a battle morph as far as Earth animals, and I was watching these 4 episodes that I'm going to cover here. The third of which is The Reaction, which is a great title for a book about an allergy. And I was thinking, if I became an Animorph, if I was so fortunate as to meet an Andalite with the morphing cube and be given the power to morph, I'd have to go straight to an allergist and just get a prick test for everything in the zoo, so that I would know what it was safe to go and uh, acquire the DNA of and morph into, because I wouldn't want to acquire a bear morph for battle purposes, and then have a bear just emerge out of me the way that the crocodile does in The Reaction. Um, I have had some bad allergic reactions, but that takes the cake. Um, so that's one of the four episodes based on 3 books that I'll be talking about here. Um, and first thing, I'm watching these on YouTube, which is not to say that there's anything wrong with watching Animorphs stuff on YouTube, but they probably are not technically allowed to be, but they're not anywhere else right now. They were on Netflix at one point, and for some reason when you looked up Jack Nicholson, you got Animorphs as one of the things. I don't think he was involved. Maybe somebody named Jack Nicholson was. Anyway, so sometimes I get them as uploaded from the VHS things, or the people trying to include as much of the stuff, Animorph stuff, from the VHS as possible. And so I got, which I'd never seen, at least I don't think I'd seen them, the video introductions from the VHSs that Cassie and Rachel post, and they were used in an interesting way. They were used to bring some of the things that I have said in previous videos were not there in the characterizations to the characters. Rachel, in hers, seems a lot more dangerous and daring, and Cassie, probably because they never intended to do book 9, where she finds the environmental angle, the we're fighting not just for the humans but for the animals angle. They put that in her video introduction, and that was really nice to see, because that's important for her character. She's not just, I mean, they're all have their reasons, but mostly they're thinking of humans in their lives. Jake is thinking of his brother. Marco eventually is thinking of his mom, and then Cassie and Tobias have their reasons as well. But Cassie's reason is, in a way, one of the most important, but also less showy, less flashy. The environmentalist activist angle, not necessarily, I mean, all over kids shows, but with limited time that the Animorphs had, and they wanted to make sure they got the cool stuff in, so it was good to see. I'm glad they got it in there somewhere. The videos also kind of reminded me of how this time through, or the last, when I read the whole series over from about 2013 to 2019, I thought, they can't tell you where they live or what their name is, their last name, but they're giving a lot of details in these books. And so if the idea is that they're writing these books and the books exist, it can't be difficult for them to figure out, for any Yeerks reading it, to figure out who they are. And I know that that's a suspension of disbelief thing, but it just, the videos, the direct to camera videos, the YouTube videos that the Animorphs made in the 90s, just reminded me of that. The first the first 2 episodes are based on the capture, which is, of course, the one where Jake gets infested by a Yeerk. The Yeerk's name is, I have it here, Temrash 114. And it opens with Jake actually having dinner with Visser 3. Visser 3 joins his family because he's, I guess, given money or is involved with his father's clinic that his father is opening, with which the governor of the state, I guess, I forget if it's a governor or a senator, is going to be a guest in, and Visser 3 plans to make this person who is running for president a Yeerk. So Jake ends up having dinner, and Jake ends up eating escargot in order to make Visser 3 uncomfortable, and I watched that and I thought that wouldn't be enough of a motivation for me to eat a snail. I could be persuaded to eat a snail potentially, but just to make a Yeerk uncomfortable, it's another way in which I would be useless as an Animorph. Looking at my notes. Let's see. The Dracon beams, just in the show, I guess I just imagine any handheld weapon in science fiction is looking like a gun. So when I was reading the books, they looked like a gun. In the TV show, they seem to be flashlights with laser sights. And it reminded me of, if you ever read Calvin and Hobbes, Calvin has a transmogrifier ray, and his transmogrifier ray looks like a gun, but I made one for myself. It was a flashlight with kind of see-through Legos attached to the end of it, and which were essentially a laser sight. So that, I just wanted to mention that thing. In these episodes, also I noticed I've, talked about the performances, and but I wanted to specifically mention these episodes highlighted for me. Paulo Costanzo, who plays Axe, he really gets into it. The weirder things, the loud talking, the having a mouth for the first time, and both the "this is a wonderful food" thing that Axe does, and the it's funny to say words, it's a funny feeling to say words thing that he does. And Paulo Costanzo really goes all out. And I don't know whether or not he felt silly doing it, but I would feel silly doing it. I would hope that as an actor I would go that far, but I just wanted to make note of that because I think it is worthy of note. Just a couple of things. I don't want this sort of commentary from me on the Animorphs TV show to be just nitpicking stuff, but this is also probably the closest the Animorphs TV show will get to getting an honest trailer. So just going to point some things out, like how when Rachel is using the computer to hack into security footage or find out about what's going on at the clinic, so to help the Animorphs find the person who's going to be made a Yeerk, she's on camera, which is how the security forces find out that the Animorphs have gotten in, and then, not far from where she was on camera, probably still on camera, she morphs, and the camera would have seen her morph from human to whatever she morphed into, I think some kind of bug, but so that just, it's the little things that I hope the movie will avoid, and I thought Marco was the computer person, but maybe I forget if it happens in the book that Rachel works with the computer. Let's see. It was a two-part episode, and so I already mentioned that. But there are two Jakes in the episode, and an interesting thing is that Shawn Ashmore, who plays Jake, has a twin brother named Aaron, and Aaron appears as Axe as Jake in this episode, and I don't know if he's always Axe Jake, like in the scenes where there don't have to be two physical Jakes in the scene. That's probably available, that information, but I couldn't. I tried to look it up, but he's definitely there in the final scene when it pans from Jake to Jake, and then the other Jake turns into Axe, and he's got a good line reading in there. But also, Shawn Ashmore gets to play Jake tied to a chair in the mind, but also he's playing the Yeerk, and he gets to do kind of more. It's always interesting and fun when an actor who plays a role gets to play an evil version of that role, and suddenly seems to be having a lot more fun doing it because he'll smirk, he'll say things with motivation. They snuck in some exposition in there. I don't know if it's in the book story of how Jake and Cassie met, but they use the Yeerk trying to get to Cassie as an excuse to tell the story of how Jake and Cassie met, which is a nice meet cute in the Animorphs world. Um, but it's just so it's an interesting performance sort of thing. Another example is, I think, some of Daniel Radcliffe's best acting in Harry Potter was when he wasn't playing Harry Potter. Like in the first movie, at the end, he's looking into the mirror of Erised, and then his reflection winks at him and indicates the answer to what he's wondering. That's one of my favorite moments. And Axe also has a great line, one of the best lines in the thing. I don't know if it's in the book, but the disgust on his face when they say they're trying to get Jake to shake Axe's hand to prove he's not a Yeerk, and Axe goes, "I'd rather kiss a Hork-Bajir," and it's a funny "I'd rather kiss a whatever" line, but the word Hork-Bajir makes it funnier. And there's a lot of great lines that I made note of from these 4 episodes. Let's see. Jake's Yeerk offers Tobias his devil's bargain with Tobias, as he says that he can make Tobias human again, which is actually kind of the plot of book 33, which they didn't get to. That book is The Illusion, and it's a hard book to read. There's a lot of torture in that book, but one wonders if I forget if that offer is in the book, The Capture, but one wonders if that was their way of acknowledging this book that they probably weren't going to make a TV show out of, because they would have had to focus on the bird getting tortured, and I don't think they would have done that. Even if they obviously would have done it without actually hurting the hawk, but they probably didn't want to do it at all. Naturally, or not naturally, but when the Yeerk dies, there is no flash of Krayak in the show, and also, and again, probably budget time in the book. The way that the Yeerks work, they have the morphing technology right away. When the Yeerk gets into Jake's head, he doesn't morph for to get away for reasons of he's trying to fool them initially, but he has the ability to morph, and he tries to morph several times in order to escape, and he's always caught. Again, time and budget reasons, but in this version, it turns out we're waiting for the Yeerk to get the power to morph, and then he goes and reveals the location of the Yeerk pool. So I'd say it's interesting. Some of the books, they get 1 episode, and it's like it wasn't enough time. A full movie would be too much time for 1 book, but 2 episodes seem to be a good amount of time, at least for this book. They probably could have streamlined it a little bit more and gotten more from the book into the episode instead of the way that they did it, but it seems like a good, when I was advocating in my small way for a Netflix series, I was thinking the individual episodes, probably 45 minutes to an hour, somewhere in there. That's a good length for an Animorphs, and that's how long 2 of these short episodes are. Moving right along to the reaction, which on TV stars Cassie instead of Rachel. And it makes sense in many ways. If you're going to switch them, probably, again, they weren't going to do as many Cassie books as they were going to do Rachel books, and they wanted to give Cassie more shows, but especially given the story that we've just heard about Cassie grabbing a snake, and that's how she and Jake met in a classroom, that everyone else was afraid of the snake, it makes sense that Cassie would go into the crocodile pen to save the little boy from the crocodile, because she would know how to deal with the animal. It also makes, both she and Rachel go in, but she ends up tackling the crocodile and acquiring its DNA to put it into a trance. Cassie does in the show version. It makes less sense later on whereas Rachel lies about having gone through the, what's it called, Axe? Hereth Illant process, burping up the rejected DNA. Rachel lies about having done that in order so that she and Cassie can go on the talk show that they end up on. Cassie, kind of in a strange way, I don't know if she's planning to lie, but she calls up Rachel and doesn't say. She just says, "You remember the burping thing I'm going to go through?" And Rachel says, "Oh, you went through with it?" And Cassie actually literally says, well, not yet, but, and Rachel says, that's great, I'll call everyone else, and that's how they deal with that, because Cassie's not going to lie to everyone. That's not Cassie's thing. Maybe she was trying to, and Rachel just enabled her, and not even necessarily deliberately. Rachel just heard what she wanted to hear and got excited, which book Rachel definitely would do, and I guess TV Rachel would as well. So it's it's Cassie-Rachel book. They have a tight relationship. It's a Cassie-Rachel show. They have a tight relationship. Their just roles are reversed in the show. They kept the llama. One of my favorite parts of the climax. It's one of the best climaxes in Animorphs books. The reaction, the TV studio, Attack of the Crocodile. Everyone, it's a big battle, but they're trying to do it. They're trying to do it discreetly, even though there's a lot of people there. It's the center of attention, and yet Axe manages to kill the crocodile without being seen, and he's on a television stage. Cassie cannot play the role in the show that she does in the book, in large part because of her new role in the show. But her what she does as a squirrel in the climax of the reaction, one of my favorite things that she does. And she knows it exemplifies one of the reasons that she's one of the best Animorphs. She knows she knows animals, and therefore, if she has to use an animal as a weapon, she knows how to use an animal as a weapon. I wrote down how lucky that a crocodile was the only animal allergy among the 6 Animorphs. I don't know if Andalites obviously Andalites have allergies because they've got a word for it, for the phenomenon in morphing, but Axe wouldn't necessarily be. Well, maybe Axe would be allergic to. That's the plot of many a science fiction: is the alien comes to Earth and is allergic to what's on Earth or has a negative health reaction. But I'm just saying that given how many allergies I have in my one person, it's just a small miracle that an alligator. I didn't know that you could be allergic to lizards before reading this book, but I knew that you could be allergic to dogs and cats and a lot of other things because I am. And I'm allergic to things related to them, and it's a miracle that none of the other Animorphs were allergic to those, or even any of the bugs that they turn into. So that was very lucky that there's only one animal allergy, and it was a crocodile. Let's see. I wrote down that probably should have meant that she wouldn't have had, or Rachel in the case of the books, in Megamorphs 2 when they acquire dinosaurs, they probably should have been allergic to the dinosaurs too. But then there's time travel, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff that probably makes that make sense. Let's see. So that's and just one thing that I found somewhat amusing. The idea that the crocodile would try to go after and eat the yerk, like it does at the end of the show. I don't know if it does at the end of the book. I think it probably gets stepped on or something when it abandons the actor. Or maybe the actor's not a yerk yet. But in the show, the actor's the Jonathan Taylor Thomas. I forget his name. Jason John McCole, I think is his name in the show, in the book. And I don't think he's a yerk yet. He's just promoting the sharing, but he's not yet a yerk. I don't think he is in the book. Maybe he is. In the show, he is a yerk already, and the yerk abandons him when all the wild, dangerous animals appear and starts crawling across the floor, and then the crocodile goes after it, and it just made me think a crocodile probably wouldn't attack a slug, but probably it wouldn't consider it worth eating. But again, not to nitpick, but it occurred. I think these are thoughts that occurred to me while I'm looking back at these. Again, all the affection in the world for these shows. The beginning of The Stranger, the episode The Stranger. I got The Stranger here and up there, actually. But so it opens with a dream sequence of Rachel's father getting attacked by the yerks, and when he's trying to get her, they're getting ready to go out on a hike, and he says, "You don't have to dress all fashion. Who's going to see us, squirrels and birds?" And she says, "You'd be surprised. Some of them might be close personal friends." And that's another great line. And at the end of the episode, Rachel sees Marco walking by, or Marco makes a comment as Rachel is kind of ending her arc. She's got to tell her dad that she's not going to go with him and be trained by the Olympic trainer, gymnastics trainer, and she sees Marco, and she says, "Were you spying on me?" He says, "No, I was just walking my bird." It's not the best written show overall, but there are some really great lines. I don't know if that line is in the book. But in the sequence, the Yurks have to go after her father, and they're going to infest her father, and then they kind of grab her and hold her back. And I'm thinking, this is the girl who in book 2 got catcalled and almost turned into an elephant to crush the person. She'd morph into a... So it's just another kind of characters being tamped down in the show. The idea that she didn't turn into a lion right then and there. Also budget reasons, but just don't let budget reasons get in the way or change characters. You don't have to do something that's in character, but you don't have to do something that's out of character. You don't have to add the out of character thing just because you can't do the in character thing. Speaking of in character, apparently she's a Smashing Pumpkins fan, because for one of the scenes she's sitting in front of a poster that says James Iha, and he was the lead guitarist of the Smashing Pumpkins. I had to look it up because I don't know anything about the Smashing Pumpkins. And the poster was for, I guess, his solo album, Let It Come Down, which I also know nothing about, but I looked that up too, and it came out the year that they were filming, or maybe the year that the Animorphs shows took place, so that was interesting. Got a couple of shots of full Andalite bodies in this because part of the plot that they redid the plot. It's very different than the books, how the Animorphs find themselves trapped and the Elemist has to intervene, but one of the ways is the Yurks actually they seem to lasso Axe, and while he's waiting out in broad daylight in public, in a public park at least, where people could walk by and see him. But you see his whole Andalite body, not the feet necessarily, but just they did make an effort with these puppets, with the Hork-Bajir bodies and the Andalite bodies, to make them look somewhat good, and it does look good. And you see also Visser 3, I guess he puts himself as bait to get the Andalites, the Animorphs, to walk under the net, and so you see a little bit more of his. And you also see it, I think when he's, I think this is the one where, oh yes, at the very beginning, he's trying to unlock the Andalite disc and gets zapped, and he's in Andalite form, and his whole body falls over. Again, you don't really see the legs, but you see the torso and the horse back, I don't know what it's called, rump, whatever, and it looks quite good. So they did, maybe as things went on, they got more confident, they showed more, and it looks good for what it was. For the original Star Trek series and 60s, 70s Doctor Who version of Animorphs, it looks good. As good as puppets could look, I guess. Let's see. Tobias goes after some people in this, like when they first cut the net at the end. Tobias zooms out, he attacks people, and it's interesting to see when Tobias attacks people, they're holding on to the leather strap, because they're probably stunt people or trainers, and they're doing something that makes the hawk flap its wings and look like it's attacking. It's probably perfectly harmless, but they're very clearly holding on to the Jess that Tobias wears, because the Animorphs can morph clothes, and the hawk that he acquired was wearing the Jess, and that's how they filmed the Tobias attacks. The sequence where they go to the future was interesting to see. Adult Rachel does a good job, nice and threatening, and I guess they split the Stranger into they had the bulk of the Stranger in this episode, but then they've got more of the Stranger in another episode mixed in with some of the Predator. That's what I'm kind of looking ahead and seeing, because I'm on the Wikipedia list of the episodes, and it says this episode based on this book. So I'm just seeing like where they mixed and matched, and it'll be interesting going forward seeing how the books go together. I'm going to leave it there for now. Just the Elemist says he's part of a race, which he technically is, but we learn in the Elemist, which wasn't a book that I really liked, that he's part of a race. It's not called Elemists, and they are not, but they have some of the same attributes. is the Ellimist as he appears Obi-Wan Kenobi-like to the Animorphs. So that's that for now. I've just remembered something that I hope I got audio as I'm recording this. I'd do it again, but I don't want to. But I will if I have to. So there should be a button, subscribe, and past videos showing up around now. And I'm going to do 4 more episodes in a couple of days. So I'll see you for those. If you want to encourage leaving comments, because I don't get to discuss Animorphs with many people, and so leave comments if you disagree with something I've said, or you think I should have taken note of something that I didn't in these 4 episodes, and you can do that in the other videos as well. And in the intervening time between now and Tuesday, remember to ram the blade chip.